Today I want to share with you one of my favorite stories in the Old Testament. It is found in the book of Daniel and is about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Every time I think about this story, my mind always jumps to the even better story of Shadrach, and Benny. It's the VeggieTales portrayal of the Bible story, and it is a classic, easily one of my favorite episodes of VeggieTales of all time. Anyways, in this episode, Shadrach and Benny are working at the chocolate factory for their boss, Mr. Nezer. So in celebration of selling their 2 millionth chocolate bunny, Mr. Nezer allows all his employees the freedom to eat as many bunnies as they can for 30 minutes. Naturally, everyone gets very sick and can't move except for Shadrach and Benny, who abstain from eating all of the chocolate. Mr. Nezer notices their competence and promotes them to junior executives. However, their praises are short-lived as Mr. Nezer constructs a 90-foot tall bunny that it requires all employees to bow down and sing the bunny song, which by the way is an extremely catchy song and truly shows Shadrach and Benny's self-control. Anyways, after the trio refuse, they are thrown in the factory's furnace to die. They are then saved by God from the fire, and Mr. Nezer repents for what he's done. This phenomenal adaptation of the classic Bible story stood out to me when I was younger, and still does to this day. I mean, it is one of my favorites for a reason. The story is really able to capture the overarching theme about standing up for what you believe in, no matter what happens or who stands in your way. Although you're obviously not able to perfectly relate to the kids' show, it gives us an easy example of how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were heavily pressured to do things that they didn't believe in. In Daniel chapter 1, Daniel and the trio were assigned a daily amount of food from the king's table. But the four did not want to defile themselves with royal food and wine, and instead asked for nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Daniel then challenged the guard to see which young men looked the most healthy and nourished after a 10-day span. And then in verse 17 it says, "To these 4 young men God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds." God blessed Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego for when they stood up for what they knew was right, even when it was something as small as their diet, like eating chocolate bunnies. Now as the story progresses in chapter 3, the trio of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is tested to an extreme. They're ordered to bow and worship a massive gold statue of King Nebuchadnezzar. However, when they fail to do so, the king is furious with rage and says in verse 15, "Now when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship, you'll be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" And here I think it's important to note how the king believed that he holds all the cards, and the fate of the trio's lives are in his hands. As our lives go on, we are going to face many idols, things, and people who believe that they are above God, and it's our job to be able to stand firm in our faith and put our Lord above all. Next, in the face of death, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego demonstrated their loyalty and faith when they replied in verses 16 through 18 with, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not want to, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." Even with their lives on the line, the 3 were not shaken one bit. They know the God they serve, and that nothing comes before him. I also really like how they didn't try to beat around the bush or make excuses about the matter. They straight up said they didn't need to defend themselves, and they just weren't going to do it. And I think that directness shows how much they truly trusted and followed God. And that is something we should all try and simulate. So as we go on in life, we need to remember to always stand up for what we believe in and that God always has our back. He'll continue to bless us when we follow his ways and save us when we're in trouble. So if you're ever pressured to sing the bunny song or be thrown into a fiery furnace, which I really hope you're not, remember that if God can save Shadrach and Benny, he can save you from anything.